My name is Lori. Welcome to Upskill Monday. Today we are doing more stitches in the embellishment series. I love embellishing things, and I'm going back to the black blocks because they have more long straight lines than the colored blocks that I have. Today we are going to do the purl stitch, which is an outline stitch, and I will show you how this easy stitch is done. I have a nice little a board that will show up better as I stitch than before. And I have a couple of samples that I've already done. I have a block, and it's got a nice open long space for me to stitch. The book says that it is easier to use a non-strand embroidery thread. So I am using a pearl cotton for this. And to make it easier, I discovered that it is easiest to, I'm using a Frixion pen, and I'm going to draw two straight lines about 1/4 of an inch, and they don't even have to show up very much, just enough that I can see them. And these will iron right off. About 1/4 of an inch away from each other, maybe a slight 1/4 of an inch. But that will make it easier to keep my stitches fairly even. So I'm going to set that Frixion pen aside, and I'm going to pull out. This is a number 5 DMC. I have no idea the weight or the thickness. We'll talk about that in a few moments. I'm going to pull a piece of this off and thread it up. I am using a larger eyed needle so that it is easier. I don't have a lot of experience with pearl cotton. I do like it, and I am enjoying using pearl cotton. I think that it probably needs to be wound onto a card to make it easiest to use, but I'm not sure because, like I said, I don't have a great deal of experience with pearl cotton. I'm going to use a nice long piece, and I'm going to thread this the same way I thread everything else. I am going to, hopefully there won't be too much glare. I'm going to squish my strands and put my needle eye down over the strands. Now, this is what I've noticed with pearl cotton, that it does not slide through the needle eye quite as well. Now this slides through the eye pretty well. I'm going to knot it like normal, and I'm going to start at one end. And I'm working from left to right. I'm going to go in the middle between the two lines for my first stitch. And this makes a row of knots that look kind of like pearls. So I'm going to go from the top down to the bottom. I'm making a loop, and then I go through the loop toward the bottom, and I pull it until it makes a knot in the middle. This looks almost like a feather stitch when you're done, except it is thicker than a feather stitch. And then I go about 1/8 of an inch away, and I go from top to bottom again, pull that through till there's a loop, then I go from top to bottom and make my next knot. And it does look like a feather stitch. You could put them even closer together if you wanted. Now, it's not as impressive with those white lines there. When we are all done and I iron those away, it looks a lot more impressive. And I'll show you a couple examples. You should try to keep the needle straight up and down from top line to bottom line. Pull it through, and you just repeat the same steps over and over. Loop, top to bottom. Pull your knot, but not too tight. And there's your pearl, or as close to a pearl as you're going to get. And you just keep right on going. Let me put this on speed record so you can listen to some of my music and watch me finish this up. Share my samples with you. This stitch, it is very much like a feather stitch, but it reminds me of the laces on a football, like Charlie Brown's football in the Thanksgiving special. Just cracks me up. So this was a number 5 pearl cotton. I think that feather stitch is easier to keep straight, but I do love the pearl cotton. And here's another one that has the number 5 pearl cotton. And somehow one of those iron-on beads got transferred over there when I ironed away the Frixion pen. Oh well, it can stay there. It looks nice there, like a happy accident. So the number 5. And then before I did those, I did this example with a thicker pearl cotton. I don't know what weight it is. None of the threads that I found at the thrift store in this little bag have a tag on them. So it is thicker. And it was a little bit more difficult to pull through the fabric. It does make a bolder statement, but it was a little more difficult to pull through the fabric, even with that larger eye needle. And it wasn't hard to thread the needle, but it was harder to pull through the fabric. And I know there are seam allowances. If I flip this over and share it with you, I was sewing through seam allowances here on the back, which made it more difficult because the other two were not difficult. They had nice, wide, open spaces to sew through. So you can see that the thicker thread does make a thicker piece. Let me put those together there so you can see all 3. I don't know if I would do this to cover a line because I ended up drawing 2 lines, one a top and a bottom line, so it is a wider stitch. And I'm more familiar with just plain old feather stitch, even though this stitch was not difficult to do. Very simple, repetitive steps, and it does make a nice treatment up through the center of a boring, plain strip of fabric. So I hope you try a new stitch today and embellish something. I hope you're working on a crazy quilt, and I will see you back here next week for more embellishments. We are going to use some buttons from Grandma's Button Box. See you on Wednesday for 4 geese at a time for the patriotic quilt. Some more setting blocks. See you later. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell if you'd like to be notified. I appreciate your support.